Movie and Television Stories by James Blackburn. 2005, The History Channel's Taming the Wild West. Good howdy, folks. Welcome back to another James Blackburn experience. For those of you who do not know, I make a living as an actor and filmmaker, mostly in New Mexico and the southwestern United States, but I have traveled much further over the years. I have always loved movies and television since I can remember. They've always been a great escape for me. This series will be for me to share the stories of my adventures in the movie and television industry. On the last episode, I shared a tale of my parts on the third movie I ever did, Into the West, Episode 4, Hell on Wheels. This episode will tell the story of my part on my next movie project, this time on the History Channel's Taming the Wild West. Filmed in 2005 and released a few months later in the same year. Let's go back in time to February 2005 and begin this movie and television story. Backstory of how I got hired. While I was working on Into the West, I was contacted by casting to see if I was interested in auditioning for the part of Jedediah Smith on the History Channel's Taming the Wild West. Of course I was interested. A speaking part would be awesome. I love helping to create and perform a character on camera. It's not only fun, but very fulfilling. So I went to the audition, and I'll be honest with you, I was not ready for a lead role yet. I think casting saw that too. After the audition, I did not hear anything for a few hours or possibly a day or two. I can't remember now. Well, they finally called me and informed me that I did not get offered the part of Jedediah Smith. However, they did ask me to work for a week as a mountain man going west on the expedition. Then I was booked to work on Taming the Wild West. So I was still happy and super excited to get cast on another movie. I was booked to work for 7 days total. That was 7 days in a row, from Monday to Sunday. I was offered a decent paycheck for the time, and was happy with everything so far. However, I wasn't cast for a speaking role, but that changed when they started filming. But we'll go into that a little later. Story of the day beginning. Call times varied from day to day, but was usually very early, most days before sunrise. We filmed in a variety of locations, including near the Rio Grande, with houses on a ridge just off camera. At one point I looked up the river and could see the golden arches from a fast food place. However, it's not important what your eyes see when you're on a movie set. What's important is what the camera sees on a movie set, and they were able to frame out all the modern civilization nearby. When you watch the movie, it does indeed look like the early 1800s throughout. Length of shoot day. All the days were more than 12 hours long, and very tiring, but rewarding at the same time. The last day ended up being more than 16 hours, and my contact lenses were bothering my eyes something fierce. Eventually I had to remove the contact lenses and rinse out my eyes extensively. But that's a story for another day. Story of shoot day moments. The first day of filming required us to meet in Rio Rancho, New Mexico at a place called River's Edge, which are some subdivisions near the Rio Grande. There were parking lots and hiking trails there, and that's where we spent our first day of filming. It's also the location of where I got my first speaking role, but we'll go into that a little later in this video. They set up some camping tents for us to change into our character wardrobes. Apparently this movie had a very small budget and had to make things work however they could. That day for lunch they provided us with cold beef stew and raw potatoes cut in half. It was food, but that's about all I can say about lunch that day. Also it was winter, but the temps weren't that bad. And since I was dressed like a mountain man, the cooler weather didn't bother me much. After that first day, there were several more days on set, and at various locations around New Mexico. One of these locations was just north of Bernalillo, New Mexico, near the Rio Grande again. This time we filmed underneath some very large power lines, which made a humming noise all day. It made me wonder how they got good sound with all that going on. But somehow they did, and I was too new in the business at the time to figure out how they did it. This day we filmed a big battle scene between the mountain men and the Native Americans. I remember it was very cold and breezy this day. The mountain men were dressed for that weather, but the Native American actors were mostly wearing loincloths and moccasins. They were freezing, so between takes the mountain men would form a tight circle around them to help keep them warm. I remember that made me feel like we were all on the same team and that we were there to help out each other in any way possible. You know, like a family of strangers there to make sure we're all okay. It was at this location that Sean, the lead actor, myself, and 3 others were picked to be featured as the survivors of a much larger group. Our characters were across the river and we witnessed our friends in a fight and being killed. As the fight begins, I got to say look and see myself in the final movie in slow motion for the first time ever. We also filmed several more scenes near the river that day, and one of the scenes my character gets killed off. It was a fun day, and one memory that comes to mind after my character dies is I fell next to a huge anthill, and the ants started heading for me right away. I was very relieved when the director yelled cut. I jumped up right away and got away from the ants without a single bite, thankfully. It was at this location where I asked if I could have some visitors come to set for a visit. The visitors were my other half, Karen, and my stepfather, Don. He was a truck driver at the time and was passing through town and wanted to get together. Since I was working that day, I was able to get them permission to come to set and watch us film for a while. That totally made my day, because these are 2 folks that I love and respect. It was great to share some of this experience with them both. New friends and memories. Also on this movie, I worked with a new friend, Mr. Tim Carlson. He's a fine person, actor, and friend. Actually, more like a brother to me. We are still good friends to this day and have probably been on 20 or 30 movie and television sets together. Another actor on set that I consider a good friend was Aldred Montoya, a talented actor and all-around wonderful person. We would work together again several times over the following years. Another good friend I met back in these days was Jason Hill, a wonderful person, actor, and a search and rescue person as well. We would go on to work on dozens of projects over the years. To this day, we are still great friends. Another good friend on this movie was Terry Willis. This was the first time we worked together, but like most of these fine folks, it wouldn't be our last. We would go on to do many more movies together over the years. Another good friend from this movie was Mr. Bob Chasey, a wonderful actor and person. We also did shows together for a few years in the New Mexico Gunfighters Association. Unfortunately, Bob has since passed away. However, he is still loved and missed, and will always have a place in my heart. Let's not forget Daryl Lujan, who you might remember from the Into the West Episode 4 video that I did last time, and you might also recognize Tony Campisi from the same video. I consider both great friends. All of these folks are not just good friends, but they're all like family to me now, and I truly appreciate every one of them. A few highlights of the movie. Another location we filmed was on private property on the Pecos River, also in New Mexico. This spot was beautiful, and I asked if I could get information on who to contact about coming back and filming here again in the future. I was told that permission would not be granted because it was private property and it belonged to a very famous person, and they probably wouldn't let me come back to film again later. So I just put that out of my head and got to the reason I was there: acting. On the previous day, my character was killed off, so they asked to change my appearance for the last day of filming. They asked to cut off my beard, and I was happy to do that for the sake of the movie. This lady is one of the hair and makeup folks, and she had the correct year to remove the beard. She did a great job and got it done really fast. So here I am with the beard, and then a few minutes later as a brand new character without the beard. Then they could kill off this new character as well, which they did later that day. Here's a picture of my dead guy makeup. Getting to work with the lead actor who played Jedediah Smith was great. His name was Sean, and he was a very talented actor and all-around wonderful person. I enjoyed working with him. He was always professional and very polite. I learned a lot by watching him work and interact with the cast and crew. I will be forever thankful for that great learning experience. They gave me a prop gun that was as heavy as the real thing, plus various accessories and wardrobe. I enjoyed my props and wardrobe for this movie. It all felt very natural to me, almost like I could be a real mountain man if I was born 200 years ago. Maybe? Maybe not. Story of shoot day, acting part of story. I was just basically hired as a featured extra, but all that changed on day one of filming when they asked me to make up some lines on the spot. After that, I had a character name until later. Well, spoiler alert, later, and that is till my character got killed off. Now here are a few clips of me in this movie. Enjoy. My clips of the movie or television show.
Others couldn't read a word.
And General Ashley sifts through the applicants, selecting just the right men for his new fur trading expedition up the Missouri River.
Next. What do you do?
Scout, sir, from Chicago.
Name?
Thomas Mitchell.
Next.
General William Ashley.
I want to mention the dialogue that I ad-libbed in this scene. There's a small story behind why I said what I said. Here are the lines again.
What do you do?
Scout, sir, from Chicago.
Name?
Thomas Mitchell.
Next.
I chose the first name Thomas because I knew that was a name around 1800. I chose the last name Mitchell because I lived in a town called Mitchell, Indiana when I was a kid. Next I said I was a scout from Chicago because I had moved to New Mexico from the Chicago area. I know my time on this movie means nothing in the big picture, but it was another necessary step for me to find my way in this industry. I learned a lot and networked with many professional and kind folks that are still good friends to this day. Quick summary. So after 12 plus hours every day, we usually wrapped after dark, then for the longest drive home. I was tired every night, but I still had a lot of energy in my brain as I drove the various miles home. I reflected on my time in this movie and realized it was also absolutely amazing. My memories of it was that it was a tough shoot, but still fulfilling at the same time. Those are really good times that make me smile even today. After the work is finished, back to real life. After 7 days in a row on this movie, we were wrapped and heading on to the next project. However, I want to mention getting paid on movies and television shows. Various payroll companies out of California usually take care of sending out the paychecks. Most of the times you get your first paycheck within 2 to 4 weeks. However, on this movie, that would not happen, ever. Myself and dozens of other actors and crew who worked for 7 days in a row, 12 plus hours a day, and patiently waited for our checks to arrive, they never did. And to this day, I still don't know exactly what happened. I know the payroll company had nothing to do with it. I'd only heard some stories that both of the production companies claimed that they were not responsible for payment and that the other company was supposed to pay everyone. I hate to admit it, but this was just one of many times the entertainment businesses took advantage of myself and others. But that's a story for another day. Wrap up. I had a couple days off before I went back to work on Into the West Episode 5, Casualties of War, where I got another very small speaking role and played various other characters as well. Tune back next time for another James Blackburn experience. Thanks for watching. As usual, love, love, hate, hate, take care of each other,